Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. This is episode 100. I am Noah.
And I'm Jesse.
All right, and before we get jumping in here, first I'd like to say thank you for all those of you who listen to us. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like our content. Leave some comments if you want to give us any suggestions or anything like that. And in this episode here, for our 100th episode, this is actually a big feat, I think. We're
4 episodes less than 2 years.
Yeah, that's pretty big, right?
That's what she said.
So we're going to be talking about Lagavulin 12 special release 2021.
2021.
And then from there, we're going to go into our shout-outs, get it togethers. Then our restaurant review, which is burgers, brews, and bourbon, or bourbon, brews, burgers, or it's 3 B's. That's all I got to tell you, right? 3 B's. There's burgers, and there's beers, and then there's and bourbon there. And then our final, and then I guess our smarter challenge, which is to decant or not to decant. And as well as we're going to be doing a review of the TV series on Netflix called The Queen's Gambit. Did I miss anything there in our intro?
No, I think that is a pretty good intro of everything we've got going on this episode.
All right.
Minus a few surprises that always creep up.
Scotch Reviewed.
With this episode, we do have the Lagavulin 12yr special release. And I think we're in for a fantastic treat. I'm super excited about this one. First of all, who doesn't think that is a sexy canister?
I think that's an awesome canister. And being that I'm a Leo, I love that line right there. I really do.
It is kick-ass.
It
is. The year this one came out, this was by far my favorite canister this year. The 2022 was a tough call. But with this one, I think we're in for a pretty smoky treat.
I hope so. I really do.
All right. So with the 2021 special release, a couple basics about Lagavulin. Founded in 1816 by John Johnson and Archibald Campbell, and they originally did 2 distilleries when they founded their establishment way back when, centuries ago, and then one took over the other. Now, they never said who it was that took over the other. There's a lot of cloudiness around which one was the victor, but within some of its history, Lagavulin at one point was leasing Laphroaig's distillery, trying to copy their flavor. I wonder if they would be trying to do the same thing today. Laphroaig's a great Scotch, but I think this one, yeah, it's no lager. So the Lagavulin 12yr, 56.5% ABV. So these special release scotches are done at cask strength. So it'll kill some of those germs. If you have a cold, this might be the perfect nightcap. Every one of our distilleries that has become some of our favorites has their own sacred water source, or at least very special water source. The Salem Lochs is where Lagavulin gets their water from. And it's known for its production and use of a very slow distillation process, probably to get some of that peaty, smoky flavor going. And it's pear-shaped pot stills with its 2 rinse and its 2 wash stills, a capacity each of about 12,500 liters, so right around 25,000 liters combined.
Nice.
Man, I'm excited.
It's a little bit weird. If you guys are watching this for the first time, you probably don't know this, but if you've been watching this for a while, you normally have headphones on. So if I feel a little bit off, that's probably the reason why. In any case, the only thing I'm going to add here is the tours, because I like tours. So with Lagavulin, they have 3 different tours. They have what's called the classic tour, where you actually get a guided tour of the premises there, and you get 3 tasting of 3 different drams. Then they have, and that goes for $27.20 roughly. So basically $27. Then we have the tasting experience, where you get 4. You get to try 4 different drams, and that one goes for $21. So if you ask me, I'd rather just pay the $6 more, get the tour, and even though I get one less dram, but you're getting that whole better experience. Then, I forgot to also mention with the classic one, where you get the 3 drams of the tour, that's 1.5 hours long. Whereas the tasting of the 4 drams, it's only 1 hour long. Then they have the warehouse cask experience where you get to do a cask tasting. That's only 1 hour long. And honestly, I think out of all the descriptions here, this is the one I would probably recommend for everyone to go do if you get a chance to go do it. This one here is approximately $47. And obviously, that can fluctuate with, exchange rates and stuff like that. But I think that one probably sounds the best. But definitely if you find yourself out there in Isla, I would definitely go take a tour of Lagavulin. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Oh, absolutely. And if you haven't figured it out, as he just mentioned, it is an Isla distillery. We visited a few of Lagavulin scotches now on our show. The most recent was in episode 88, the Offerman Charred Oak Edition, where our Smarter Challenge was the best of Christopher Walken, which was very fitting for such a bold
So that was
scotch.
3 months ago?
Yeah, 12 weeks ago. Time flies. Tempest Fugit.
Yeah.
They do have a little inscription here on the back of the canister, which I'll try to quickly read because I think it's a fun little tale about the Scotch. So this year's, the 2021 was called or is called the Lion's Fire. And as our fable goes, the King of Isla, seen upon the crest of Lagavulin, was no ordinary feline, but a lion rampant who prowled the grounds of an Isla castle. A fresh victor, intense in power and pride. This brooding and battle-worn beast won its crown through flame and ferocity and came to represent one of Scotland's most fiery distilleries, Lagavulin. From Isla's history of fierce competition emerged a taste triumphant, one of the oldest distilleries on the island. Lagavulin's early leader, James Logan Mackey, and his unrelenting nephew, Peter J. Mackey, known as Restless Pete, were renowned for going the extra mile in the name of achieving powerful flavor. That tenacious spirit can be tasted in every sip of this legendary dram. Deceptive with its inviting golden hue, a first taste, this rare beast growls gently, teasing with lemon, salty sweetness, and roasted tea. Intense blackened wood stalks the palate before a long, rich, and drying finish, roaring with chili pepper and great waves of smoke. A classic Lagavulin 12, striking in every way, the King of Isla in his prime.
Drugs bad, Gabe. Sorry, you heard Mackey or anything or his name? All I can think of is Mr. Mackey from South Park.
Oh my
Drugs
God.
bad, Gabe.
Meanwhile, he's like the biggest druggie. All right. Well, should we proceed?
Yes.
Without further ado, we're not going to keep ourselves waiting. We're not worried about anyone else at this moment. The Lagavulin 12. And it is interesting because this is not what either of us would typically consider a sexy color for a Scotch, especially one so peaty and smoky.
Yeah, it does look from the bottle that it's kind of light in that color there. Maybe kind of like a light straw color, and it kind of makes me wonder if they put it in, if they charred the oaks at all, the barrels that they used.
I am not sure. They are known for using sherry oak casks, especially with their Lagavulin 16 and distillers versions. Who knows? I mean, maybe they don't char those barrels very heavy. Maybe that's part of their magic, but they get the peat and they get the smoke in there.
What do you say? Wooden top, plastic top?
Oh, we know this has got some wood.
I'm just wondering because like anymore, it's like they're going like plastic.
Man, so many places are the plastic. Man, I still like a little nature. All right.
Like laying the lumber.
I'm gonna say wood. Wood or no wood? Wood.
That's what she said.
Right? All right. With this one, we're just gonna go for it. Ready?
Yep.
That sounded magic.
This is where you need like a woman coming to your bedside. She goes, "Do you need help with that morning?" Go ahead and pops open the Lagavulin for you.
That's right. Why, yes, I do.
All right, time for our warp speed and cheers.
Cheers.
Lagavulin, I think they're a great distillery. They have some really great scotches. I love this past year's Lagavulin 11, the
Offerman.
And I forget what is the notation on that one because like it had been Guinness of two previous times. This one was something different.
Charred oak.
Charred oak, yeah. So I thought they did a phenomenal job with that one. That one, like I've raved about and loved it. I think the Lagavulin 16 is a staple. You have to have it. The Lagavulin 9 was fantastic, and even the 8 is a great dram as well. It's a decent dram. This one here, though, I struggle with this 12, and maybe it's just my taste buds or whatever, but. I'll first start off with the coloring. The coloring here is light. I put like a light straw color, and with the aroma. See here, I think it's a total win on the aroma because I'm getting like hints of lime, that citrus lime that you get with some maritime, and right there, I'm already thinking summertime or something like that. And then it goes, and it's kind of funny because I put. Refreshing spring. So lime with maritime, bonfire, kind of like that bonfire smell with some oakiness, which reminds me of a nice springtime or maybe having a bonfire on the beach or something like that. And that's kind of what I get with the aroma. So the aroma is very inviting. And being that it's like 56.5 ABV or something right around that, I didn't get any alcohol burn when smelling the aroma of this great Scotch. Now the palate is very light bodied. However, but even though it's light bodied, I'm getting like I got hints of saline. The citrus from the lime does come out a little bit. I get the smoky peat, which is kind of like almost a staple for Lagavulin, and some also hints of toffee because you get some nice sweetness in there. Now, when it comes to the finish, and this is what I said, I put, it hits me with black pepper, that subsides going into the smoky oak that you typically would get from a Lagavulin, and then hints of citrus, and all of a sudden, like that spiciness comes back and it just overpowers you. Or at least it overpowers me, and it's a long, spicy, lingering finish, and it's not caused by the alcohol. So I said it was like I get blasted black pepper, then it goes to the smoky oak that I expect with the hints of citrus, and then I get blasted again with a long, lingering, spicy black pepper. But as we were talking, you said that there's notes in there saying that they use cayenne pepper or something like that?
There's tasting notes from Master of Malts, I believe it was, that mentioned chili pepper, and it's also on the canister.
Yeah, so if it has chili pepper in it or whatever, maybe that's the spiciness I get, and I honestly do not like that because, first of all, I'm not a person, like, usually when it comes to spices, I can't do too much above Tabasco sauce. Occasionally I'll venture out and I'll try it now, and then I instantly get reminded why I am not a huge spice fan. So starting with this episode, we have started a new ranking or point system. And this was a suggestion that came from somebody who said that they like what we do, but they wanted us to do a point system. So just to kind of basically give you our point system. We have a point system that goes up 5 points for presentation. So a really awesome presentation with a nice canister label and that type of stuff gets a 5. Probably something with no canister and a really bare label would probably get like maybe a 0 or a 1. Then we got color. At least for Noah, for me, I can't speak for Jesse. Light straw is going to get a 1 point, and a dark amber or dark copper is going to get 5 points because I just like that. I like that dark coloring. Then we have aroma, which goes up to 30 points. So we got 5 for presentation, 5 for color, 30 points for aroma, 30 points for the palate, and 30 points for finish, giving us a total of 100 points. So here with this Lagavulin, I love the labeling. I love everything about it. I'm a Leo. It's a fire sign, so I get the whole fire and lion thing, which also totally makes sense with the whole chili pepper because that's fire, right? So the labeling here, I also love the coloring on it. I'm giving that a 5. I love the presentation. The canister really knocks out of the ballpark. The label, I expect a little bit more out of the label, but still the labeling with the coloring and the classic look of a Lagavulin I think is great. So once again, I think it's a solid 5. The color. To me, it's a light straw color, so that got a 1. When it comes to the aroma, I love Maritime. So for those of you who watched us for a while, you know one of my favorite distilleries is Bourbon. And I like that sea salt, sea air type of Maritime aroma. So because it has that saline or Maritime in it, that's a big plus for me. It has a refreshing scent to it. That's also a big plus for me. So I gave it 25 out of 30 points there. The palate, even though I don't like the spice, the spice really didn't hit me too much in the in that beginning and mid palate. But it did create because of that spice, it did create for a short front and mid palate. But I gave it 20 points there. And the finish, because I don't like spice, and that's just a personal thing for me. It's like I said, maybe if you like spicy foods, this might be totally right up your alley. But for me, because I'm not I really can't go much above like Tabasco sauce, and I most certainly don't want it in my Scotch really. I gave it 15 points there. So 25 plus 20 plus 15 plus 1 plus 5, that gives us a grand total of a 66 out of 100. I feel really bad giving this score to Lagavulin for this particular bottle because I really do believe they deserve something higher. But really, I think what hurt it here for me is that finish with the spiciness. Would I share it with a friend? Yes, I would share it with a friend. Would I take it to a poker night? Yeah, I would take it to a poker night. And would I take it to a black tie affair? Yes, I think it's something that you could take to a black tie affair or an elegant outing because I think the labeling and the presentation of it would make for a great talking points and stuff like that. So even though I gave it a 66, I do believe that that's a low score for this Lagavulin. And really, I think it's just probably because the spice that really kind of turned me off. But overall, I think it's a great. I still think it's a great bottle, and I think many people, especially if you like spicy foods, would really love this bottle.
All right. Well, you and I definitely, as we have known, see things a little bit different for our personal Scotch taste. So, going through some of the basics first. Color, absolutely, you nailed it. This is a super and I mean super pale straw color. I'm kind of surprised though you didn't like the Gothic attribute. But no, really, it is this very, very surprisingly to me for a Lagavulin, typically not very dark in color, but it is a surprise to me that it is quite this pale for something that has so much body. On the nose, this is absolutely where this Scotch wins for me. The nose is fantastic. It is clean. The first time I smelled it, the first thing I thought was Bourbon, because it's got that clean maritime sea air smell that just clears your sinuses. And then I go to, and this is why I thought you were making tea earlier, I get dry tea out of it in the nose. I get dry tea and then cocoa and lemon zest. Final little lingering piece there is that bonfire smell. So for me, it is a very almost sharp in layers, clean, crisp maritime smell. And I do, when I smell the cocoa, I love it. Now, the palate is quite different than the nose. So for me, the palate is, unlike yourself, for me, the palate is super smooth and sweet. I am getting a lemon acidity, more of that sea air, but the palate isn't as intricate or sexy as the smell. So it does leave me wanting a little bit as far as all those flavors I smelled, all those different pieces. I don't get those on the palate, and it's a little of a put off. On the flip side, the finish, man, is damn bold. It is a great finish. It is long. There are waves of smoke, and it took me for a while to figure out what it was. But as it mentions on the back of the canister there, that chili pepper flavor also comes in waves, and it's kind of like it's there, and then there's some smoke and peat, and then it's there, and then it's some smoke and peat. Oh, man. I mean, if I was going to look at this Scotch and define it as something, I'm calling it a blonde siren. It is a mermaid that's going to sing you the song that'll put you to your death. 56.5% ABV. I actually really enjoy the pepper at the end, but I will say it was a surprise. It was not at all what I expected from a high end, at least a higher dollar Lagavulin Scotch. So with that, for me, presentation absolutely 5. Nailed it. Lagavulin, you did a great job. The color, so I'm not as particular. I will say for me, there are those pieces of the dark amber, the copper and the brass that are sultry, that I absolutely seek out, but I don't mind the blonde either. And it gets a 3 in the color scale for me, because it's nothing that is a standout, but it doesn't put me off at all. It's just, it's kind of just there. But I do like, I think it's amazing how pale it really is. On the nose, man, this is where, again, there aren't many Scotches that we've tried in our 100 plus at this point where a nose is this impressive. For a nose, this nailed it for me. And I'm giving it a 30. For the palate, man, the palate, again, was a little bit of the disappoint. And for me, it's only getting a 25. And that's the same with the finish, is that it just wasn't fantastic. I was hoping to be trying a Scotch where we were going to be rating it and giving it some phenomenal score. So my score is definitely higher than yours for this particular variation. I'm getting an 88 total point scale for this one, but I was really, really hoping for like a 92 plus. Now, one thing to consider with our point scales, and why we started doing this and why we really appreciated that feedback, is because we know we have different tastes, and some of you may side side with one of us more than the other. This will give you those opportunities as you test and sample scotches to see, as we continue to test and taste these scotches, if one of us rates it higher, then you may be more inclined to say, yeah, that's Noah's taste, that's my taste, I'm going after that one. That other one, Jesse, he recommended the Lagavulin 12. Hell no. So whatever it may be, I do enjoy it though. So 88, which, you know, I may be, this is a new point scale, I might be very giving at this point. It might be a little bit lower than that. It'll be interesting to see, and maybe something we try to revisit down the road in the future. But an 88 for this one, would I share it with some friends? Yes, but it's interesting because it, for me, is a very easy drink, but it's not as fun as a regular Lagavulin 16. It's not as fun as an Oban 14 or an Oban 18 or Little Bay Oban. There are a lot of other scotches out there that are just more fun, especially for the money. And the one hands down would be 12 weeks ago, Offerman Charred Oak. I would take that any day over this. I am super glad I tried this. I am super glad it's something that I got an opportunity to enjoy, and I do enjoy it. It's not as sexy as some of those other ones. But man, it's hot. It's Valentine's hot. It's got the cinnamon in there like your love oils. With that, would I take it to a formal event? Yes, but again, man, I think there's some other ones that are more of my namesake. But yes, to a poker night. Yes, to friends. The only thing that would stop me from taking it to any of those places is the price point.
It's time for our shout-outs.
Season's going to be over before you know it. Once again to Aiden and his team for continuing to win games in their basketball season, and also to Mila for continuing to do great things at work and through school, and just for being a really good sound. Like, I actually think more and more she's becoming an adult that I continue to grow and look more and more forward to having a lifelong relationship with. This is a person that, you know, whether she starts to date someone or she is dating someone, as she let me know, but as they're around, because they're off at school right now, getting an opportunity to go to lunches and dinners with the two of them, I really look forward to that. Vacations, I love it. So yeah, kids, keep your heads on your shoulder and keep doing great things.
My shout out is for your daughter Mila.
All right. Mila too.
But it will also roll into my get together as well.
I know where you're going with this all of a sudden. I love it too.
So Mila, as you guys may or may not know, we're roommates here. So Mila came over and she was complaining about work and how one coworker maybe is not pulling their weight as they probably should. And they're not a new employee. And that was, I think, to see such a young person realize and understand how some people are with their work ethic, and her complaining about it, first just told me like the type of person that she is, which is phenomenal. And you raised a great daughter. I already knew that anyways, but like that really like. That was like the nail in the coffin right there. I thought it was awesome. And hear her complain about something like, and this is a true thing here. Everyone's seeing it nowadays, especially after COVID. There are people out there who just don't want to work, or just don't work, or they just have bad work ethic. And this is a problem, I think, with American business anyways. And I think we've had too much of like socialism or whatever creep into our system, because they don't pay you for you as the type of employee or the type of work ethic that you are. Mm-hmm. They pay you for the position. So also you have two people who do the same job. One person slacks off, does nothing, gets paid the same amount as you do, and you might get a slight difference with a pay raise, but sometimes those pay raises aren't even enough to validate that all the extra hard work that you put in. So I think it's a very important life lesson that I was kind of learned right there, and I love how she was like called it out, and I think it was awesome.
She was passionate.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. Like, I know I was laughing and stuff like that. And I loved it. Like, I really did. I thought, like, that, she was like, I thought, wow, you are such an awesome person. And yes, that other person is such a fuckhead.
She did not use that term.
She didn't. I'm saying, this is me. And so I was, but it is out there. Like, you know, you'll see, like, any job you go to, they're paying you for the position. They're not paying you for who you are, you know. And then as you get your reviews or whatever, they'll give you, like, you know, you might get a pay raise or a bonus. But a lot of times those two are kind of standardized anymore too. So once again, you might have someone who's pulling more weight than another person. And if you're the person who's pulling more weight at a certain point in time, I think that discourages people from becoming better and excelling in life, because they start getting a bad taste in their mouth, knowing that other people are going to get the same amount of money as they are, and they're going to be, you know, they put in less work. In any case, shout out to your daughter. Get it together for those people who don't want to work.
Agreed.
And then, I have one other get it together. For those of you who had, like, New Year resolutions or whatever, and you're faltering on them, get it together. This is probably shooting right back at me. I'm talking to myself in the screen here. Like, one of my get it together is like make more healthy choices. And then I got off to a rough start by pulling a muscle and stuff like that. I couldn't really go to the gym too much.
Is it a big muscle?
No, it was my calf muscle.
That's a big muscle.
But anyways, don't allow things to, like, derail you. If you fell off the wagon this first month, there's still 11 other months for you to keep going. So get yourself together and keep pushing forward and try to make that effort every day. There you go. That's my get it together.
All right, my get it together is just for the Americans who both support giving money to Ukraine. I saw a recent poll on CNN that believes we should continue to help fight Ukraine's war with them with money, and they're talking about sending another $500 million or $500 million. And then also the people who are looking for the student loan forgiveness. Now, at some point you have to realize the reason that this has been stalled or stopped or denied, paused, whatever term you may want to use, so many times is because we're writing blank checks. That money doesn't just go away. It is not forgiven. We all end up paying for it in taxes. What I would like to say, though, is let's just, let's take a poll, let's have a vote, let's contact the Senate and the Congress. Let's talk to these individuals and say, hey, let's just make a choice. Do we give $500 million to Ukraine, or do we forgive debt? And I'd really love to see that poll. Where would you rather your money go? To forgive your student debt? Would you like that $500 million to forgive all that debt, or to go to Ukraine? And I'm betting there's a lot of selfish people out there that want to support the war in Ukraine, but the second it means they might not get debt forgiveness, they will say...
Are those my only two options?
Those are the options, man. People like to write blank checks in America, I have learned, and so they need to write one. I'm just trying to stop them from writing two.
Restaurant Review.
All right, this week's restaurant review here in Parker, Colorado was Burgers, Brews, and Bourbon. This is approximately at Jordan and Lincoln Road. It's a relatively new establishment. We couldn't get out of the manager quite how new because he didn't remember if they were open 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but it was something like that. And I'm thinking if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago and I was a manager of a new restaurant, I'd probably remember. He apparently did not.
No, he didn't.
You want me to kick it off with my meal? All right, first things first, I went with the Hangover Burger. So it is a decent sized patty on a nice brioche roll with some bacon and an egg over easy, cheese. I thought the burger was fantastic. We did start with some onion rings. They call them their champagne onion rings. I thought the onion rings were really good as well. Much better than the sweet potato fries that I ordered with my burger. They were actually a letdown. But going in, I thought the environment was pretty nice. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was quiet. It's relatively new, and I don't think they have really a set destination point or group of people who are making that their destination point just yet. Service was pretty good, except when they confused our beers and gave me yours and gave you mine, and that was a little bit of a hiccup. The burger, I ordered medium because he was honest. I appreciated the server's honesty when he said they've been having a little bit of a difficult time getting the temperature of the burgers just right. So I ordered my medium. It definitely came out medium rare, which is what I really wanted. I just didn't want raw. So my burger was fantastic. It was delicious. Again, would absolutely enjoy that. Sharing this environment with a friend, yeah, probably, especially in the summer. Would I take a date there? I have nothing against taking a date there. It's just so undefined right now that it would not be my first choice. So when we were talking with the manager, we did learn it is also owned by the same owners as Little Rishi's Pizza, which is just down the same shopping center at the corner there, which we've had a good experience at. And again, I would I go there with a friend? Yes. Would I take a date there? Most likely, yes. Overall, though, man, middle tier restaurant, not formal, not fast food. Value was pretty good. Definitely not as good as the Tailgate on a Monday night, but the value was pretty good. Man, overall, I think I'm giving it a 7.
I agree with you as far as like the ambiance or the atmosphere when you first, or the way it's set up. It was nothing special, but it was nothing that detracted from it. In fact, I thought it looked. We had been there before, but when it was previously like some Irish pub, and that place looked dark and dingy, and I don't know. This place actually looked kind of inviting inside. It's still, because it is new, it's still kind of clean. And I think you're right. I don't think you have like a set clientele there yet. So maybe it's too new to really judge that part of it. But so far I liked it as far as that goes. The waiter was pretty decent, minus the fact that he mixed up our beers, but he fixed it. So that was okay. So I had no problem with that either. The onion rings, those were tasty. They were nice. They're like light and well battered and crispy enough. And the dipping sauce was decent, not great, but decent. And the burger that I had was Kraft Your Own Burger. So I got with my burger, I did sourdough bread with bison meat. It did come out a little bit more pink than I would have liked, but that's fine. I don't mind eating like pretty pink.
Raw meat. Yeah. Zombie man over here.
And then I got it with like Gouda cheese, bacon, avocado, and barbecue sauce. And I thought it actually turned out pretty well.
It looked good. Yours looked damn good.
Because it was a craft one where you made you build your own. It did come out a little bit pricier than like the standard ones that they have on their menu. But I thought it was worth the price because I thought it was a good burger. And sweet potato fries, not quite where I wanted them to be. And maybe it's because they're still new there. I have no idea. But like something about the sweet potato fries was still lacking. You know what I think would really like kick off those sweet potato fries? And I had this over at a place in Salt Lake. But they have like sweet potato tots, and they use like a cinnamon butter. And that is so killer. And now I think if they maybe like drizzle a little bit of like cinnamon butter on the sweet potato fries, that would probably that'd kick it up a whole other notch.
I agree, absolutely. But the other thing is like sweet potato waffle fries aren't the good cut for me for sweet potato fries. I want just a fry or a tot. You mentioned the tots, delish.
So the food there, I would give it an 8. I thought the food was good. The price value, maybe I think if you go just something off the standard menu, it might be better than build your own because you get a little crazy there. Then the wait staff, I'll give him a 7. And then the manager kind of put me off a little bit.
Agreed.
And it really just seemed like maybe he might have been like tweaked out on some yayo or whatever. But he didn't seem like he was like fully there. So overall, I'm gonna give it a 7.5. But it has room to be better, but it also has room to drop just because it's so new. Smarter challenge to decant or not to decant, and TV review of the Queen's Gambit.
All right. Well, first things first. Decanting. They sell tons of attractive, possibly even masculine, awesome, superb decanters, all different shapes and styles. Noah has one of a stormtrooper, pretty badass. This one was gifted to me from Marissa. Atlas, holding the world on his shoulders. The first thing I will say with any decanter situation is, typically, it doesn't benefit you to do anything but have an attractive decanter full of a liquor you want to put in it, because with alcohol, with spirits, you're not getting the true benefit of a decanter. And what you are doing is aging that alcohol, in this case scotch, more quickly. So for our exercise, we are not going to use an expensive scotch. We're going to use the Lagavulin 8, an inexpensive scotch, for our little experiment. Now, there is one point, and while I'm doing this and pouring this, I'll ask Noah to go over the details. When is it appropriate to decant?
Okay, well, decanters, when it comes to like liquor or spirits, as Jesse was mentioning, really, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good to decant them. It's more about show than anything else, because when you're using a decanter, and the real main purpose of it is like what you find with wine, and so with wines, what you're doing there is that you are exposing more of the wine to the air to oxidate it, and also to that way it helps like bring out more of the characteristics of the wine, and to help it age a little bit quicker and mile out the tannins, as well as get rid of some of the sediments there. And so that's why when you see like wine decanters, they have like a big opening area, and then an area where a lot of the wine is exposed, like what you see with either like the teardrop decanters, where they kind of come down like that, like a narrow neck, and they come way out and widen out the bottom, or you have the duck decanters, where they have like a little spout over here, and then they come down and then they go back up, so it has kind of like a body of a duck. But the whole reason why that is there is so that way you get more air exposed to the wine, and so therefore it will like mellow out the tannins, and once again get rid of that sediment, and basically make it easier for you to drink, especially if the wine is young, or if it's either old and it's still kind of tight and you want to have it open up. Now, when it comes to like bourbons or scotches, here you normally wouldn't do it. It's just more for like a display, or just kind of show off your drink. It looks cool. And honestly, I think the Atlas one there that you have is awesome. But here's the thing: like, if you're going to be like using a decanter for your spirits, most likely you're going to be drinking the scotch within like a month to a month and a half, maybe 2 months at most. So it's really not there for long-term use. And then also, when you are using a decanter with a spirit, that's why you have those lids on there. Some of them are kind of like loose tops. Like, I think this one's more of a loose top, and because it is more of a loose top, you're gonna get more air in there, exposing it to the spirit, and therefore it's gonna age quicker. Whereas if you had a tighter seal on there, if you had the tighter seal, kind of like you would with your with the cork toppers that you have on your actual Scotch bottles, it will help it last longer. And obviously, like the more you drink of it, the more it's going to be exposed to the air, and the faster it's going to age. So, is that kind of like what you wanted me to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it absolutely makes sense to decant wine, especially those high in tannins. You're breaking them down. You're making it more enjoyable for most. Now, some people really like super tannin wines. Don't decant it. It's that simple. You're also going to typically be drinking younger wines in that case, where they haven't broken down naturally. But with alcohols, it's all about the look. And at the end of the day, it is pretty cool. It looks fun. But as far as improving the flavor, the taste for a spirit, not really going to do anything. For a nice Bordeaux, might absolutely do a lot.
So, like, as you mentioned, there's like one story I told you about, right, where before I left Colorado and moved to Utah, I used to be a wine buyer, and one of my clients bought some 2001 Grand Cru Bordeaux's, one of them being Lafite Rothschild, which at the time I think was going right around like $1,500 to $1,800 a bottle. And as a going away gift, he opened up one of those bottles and he decanted it for 24 hours, which helped open it up and mellow it out. And it was a phenomenal bottle. We had it with some steaks and baked potato and stuff like that. Incredible. And then after that, he opened up another Grand Cru Bordeaux. And then we went over to one of his buddies' houses, and he opened up some other high-end wine. So I think that night we drank close to like $8,000 worth of wine. It was a fun night, great night. His name Robert was his name. He's a good friend, and he was a great client of mine at the time. So, but yeah, that's the reason why you would use a decanter. You wouldn't. I wouldn't really. Unless you want it for show, I really wouldn't really recommend a decanter for spirits. But it does look fucking cool,
dude. They are.
You got a cool one like this.
This is pretty cool.
The Stormtrooper one that Brian got me is kind of cool.
I like it.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's more about show or showmanship than it is really about something that's beneficial for the drink itself.
Absolutely. So if you've got some money to burn, and fewer Americans in our current economic situation do, buy a decanter, decant your liquors. But first, especially if you enjoy a good wine, use a wine decanter. You're going to get more bang for your buck.
Exactly.
All right. It is pretty cool.
It is kind of cool.
It's a fun one. All right. So the second half of this Smarter Challenge, and I'm glad we both enjoyed it, because Noah and I had a very long conversation about this Smarter Challenge this weekend, and some of the things that really stuck out, and we're going to be sharing some of those with you right now. It is the 2020 Netflix series, 7 episodes, The Queen's Gambit. Originally aired first episode October 23rd of 2020. And man, I had seen it advertised for 2 years and never thought much of it. And I will admit, for myself even, the first episode, a little slow at the beginning, but once you finish that, I was hooked. I couldn't stop.
I agree with you. I've heard people talk about saying how good it was, even like on a Buff Stampede, which is like the chat area or like whatever for all things sports for University of Colorado Buffalo sports. There's people who did like an off-topic thread there talking about the Queen's Gambit, and I still didn't watch it. I saw like the the thumbnail that they have on Netflix. I'm like, I don't know about that. And I tried watching the first episode like 3 different times, fell asleep halfway through each time. Finally, because it was a Smarter Challenge, I forced myself to watch the first episode all the way through. By the time I finished that first episode, I was hooked. I couldn't stop watching. I was up all night, and I think I stopped watching it like at 5 o'clock in the morning. I did a total binge of it, which I'm kind of bad in that sense. Like if I get onto a show and it's binge worthy for me, I will go without sleep to watch the whole thing, just so that way I can get it done with and out of my life. But I like that at the end of that first episode where she just goes in, spoiler alert, where she goes in and grabs like all those drugs and those tranquilizers and just like starts gobbling up like the candy. You knew that she'd be like, oh dude, don't do that, honey, you're fucked now.
How did she not die?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. I would think they had to pump her stomach or something.
Oh man,
Throw up or whatever. But,
probably.
Anyways.
Yeah, great series, great show, tons of fun. And the first thing I want to say is that the character, Beth Harmon, played by Anna Taylor-Joy. So what made me originally want to see this series was Anna Taylor-Joy's performance in the movie The Menu. And then really revisiting and realizing that was the same person in the series I've been seeing all about, I was like, okay, now I really have to see this. She was and not just but the star. She was magic in this story.
She was magnificent.
There were some other great acts, actually really so many very good and great actors, just not marvelous, which also is a word in one of my favorite quotes from this movie. She is a marvel. She is marvelous in her role, playing this character that I think is great. It's a coming of age story, if you will, and it starts when the girl is 5 years old and it finishes when she's roughly 23. She's pretty young to be playing the greatest Russian chess player on the planet.
Like, there's some of those grandmasters, like they're like people like when they're like 8.
Yes, for sure. But it's a marvelous coming of age story. Her mother, Alma Wheatley, played by Marielle Heller, did a good job. But the other guy, and I think this is probably true for you as well, that actually there's a ton of them. One of the most impactful characters was the character William Scheibel, played by Bill Camp, who plays the custodian who teaches the young Beth Harmon how to play chess. And the connection there, for me, watching the show, was very evident right from the beginning, but it didn't hit her, and I think this was part of what made the story great, until she revisited that herself 15 years later in life.
Well, I think that kind of holds true, though, for a lot of people. I think you have mentors or people who come into your life that have a great influence. And while you're going through whatever you're going through, you don't realize what they mean to you or the influence that they had upon you at that particular point in time. And then later on, when you have that time to go back, if you're lucky and have that time to go back, then you realize that the magnitude that they had on your life. So, like in this case here, you see her like in the flashbacks that her father didn't want to have I think the father wanted to have something to do with her at the very beginning, but the mom wouldn't allow it. Then when the mom wanted to have the father come and become involved, he had already moved on and didn't want anything to do with the daughter at that point. So after that, she becomes an orphan, and then she gets adopted, and then her adopted parents, the dad took off on the adopted mom. So once again, there was no father figure here. So the janitor, Mr. Scheibel,
yes,
he actually was her father figure, and I don't think she really realized that he was a father figure, and he maybe not have been like the father figure in a traditional sense, but when you look at things that you can learn in life through chess, he was very much so her father figure and taught her a lot of lessons within chess that propelled her throughout life. And really, that background of him teaching her chess not only prepped her for kind of like life in general, but also set her up for success in that sport or game of chess in itself.
I 100% agree, and it's also very interesting because I think in a lot of the stories and books and tales of that time, you do find these superbly impactful father figures who are very stoic, who are very honest, but super supportive, whether or not that child figure realizes it at the time.
This kind of dives into something deeper, and I don't know, I'm going to go a little bit off track here.
Go for it.
Because this kind of like reminds me of just a TikTok clip. I think it might have been TikTok, or it might have been in a YouTube short or whatever. And it's also, you could go look it up. It's statistically proven anyways, but it talks about this video talked about how single fathers have the same amount of success rate, or very close to, as couples, like stay together when they raise children. Whereas single mothers who don't have a father involved, like there's not a father figure involved, they tend to have more children who are at risk, and the guy was talking more about those who go to jail and stuff like that. So children of single mothers have a much higher rate of going to jail than those children who are raised by a couple or those raised by a single father. And here, the influence of the janitor, Scheibel, is that father figure in her life, and I think that's what helped her become so successful, because he was strict about, like, the way he taught her. He was able to lay down that law, like, you don't do this, like, you lost, even though you can't see, like, even though you see you lost, or maybe you couldn't see it at the time. We're not going to play it out because you've lost. You do the respectful thing and you resign. There's and then like one time she was negligent with her queen on the board, and he's like, because of this, you're punished. We're not going to play now. And so he helped set those structures in place that helped her both in the game and in life. And I think it's very important to have father figures involved in children. And this kind of is one way of showing it without showing it.
It absolutely is. It was, again, it's kind of a magical story. To give the quick outline, we haven't done that yet, that we mentioned, it's a coming of age story of a young chess prodigy, in this case super rare, as particularly for the time. A young female chess player starts to learn how to play chess at age 5 after her mother, as we were talking about, not necessarily a successful mother, decides to go a different route, and she is orphaned, goes to an orphanage, learns to play chess, eventually is adopted by a couple who had tried to have a child but could not themselves, and then continues to learn and grow with chess in high school and beyond with this magical journey. And she had like a magical journey in life. She learns a lot of things very quickly, has already grown up pretty much, but has to grow up and experience different things to see the full colors and or possible tragedies that life can bring. One of them being drinking to the point where she's useless. She's in her own pit of despair, and she has to climb her way out. She does that with a friend, and ultimately, after losing once to the world champion chess player, her one chance not to have to do it in Russia, she was in Paris, gets the chance to face him again in Russia. And her own battle is one that's beautiful in a sense that she had to do it herself. She did not take any easy roads. She did make some poor choices, but she made a lot of great choices, and she also stayed true to herself, particularly towards the end of the film, where she has to decide, is she going to make political statements one way or another for all these different groups who did nothing but give her maybe a little bit of a time or a little bit of money. She didn't believe in them. She gave them their money and time back.
So I think this series and this particular character, there's a couple of things that I think that holds true for anyone who is successful in life, and it's even brought up a little bit there when she first gets interviewed by the Time people, when she's sitting there at the her adopted parents' house with the adoptive mother. after her so-called manager. But the reporter was saying something about like being narcissistic, I think, or obsessive, right? Because somebody, you have to be so obsessed about obtaining a certain goal that you seem crazy to other people sometimes. Because when you look at like the average normal person or the average person, their focus gets distracted quite a lot. It's like that dog from that movie, that cartoon movie. He was like squirrel and like looks over squirrel, and people get distracted very easily, and they're not obsessed by it. And if you start reading like any like kind of like self-help books and stuff like that, they talk about a lot of them talk about like how you have to be totally obsessed about your goal. Like you have to basically eat, sleep, breathe, dream, everything about your goal. Like you have it set in front of you, and this creates a program basically in your mind that anything other than that goal gets flushed out, and all you're doing is you're focusing on achieving your goal. And no matter what the obstacle is, if you already made that decision to go after that goal, everything else goes off to the wayside. And really, when you look at a decision and how it breaks down, it's to put to death, right? So a decision is to put to death all other options. And I think this TV series and her character really shows that, because her mom tries to distract her, and there's a couple times where she does end up getting distracted, and you see what happens to her play as a chess player, which starts to like it. She does not perform as well as she could when she gets distracted, and so. Not saying that there isn't a time and a place for you to distract or maybe take a breather, but I think this really shows like how when you're in pursuit of a worthy ideal, you do definitely need to be obsessed with it.
Absolutely. Another thing that I want to mention about this series, it did win, nominated for even more awards. It won 11 Primetime Emmys, 2 Golden Globes, of which, of course, one was Anna's acting. And then Anna also won the Screen Actors Guild Award for her performance. And Noah brought this to my attention earlier. This has been the most successful Netflix series of all time. And it's great. Yeah, he also brought up that after this happened, the chess.com sites, purchases, subscriptions, however they run it, went up 500%, five-fold, 500% more. Chessboards were selling, chess books were selling, chess games, all sorts of things. So it made a very big impact, and I think that's wonderful. I actually do think it's great. I don't think there's enough of those games where one thinks about the strategy, because in life, there are truths, and we don't always want to admit it, but there are certain types of people. We deal with them. Mila just dealt with one at her job where this person, as she's, going on, was saying, they're quitting. How do they even still have a job after months of doing the same thing, which is nothing? And that is one of those players on our own personal chessboard. It's learning who the rooks are or who the knights are, what the queen can do. Is she more impactful than the king? And that's pretty much, I think, the beautiful piece of the Queen's Gambit, the Gambit being the giving of one's piece, if you will, the sacrifice, that Gambit, the sacrifice to get advantage on the board. And the way the series ends is beautiful. Do you have one or several favorite quotes or points of the movie?
Yeah, well, this is not necessarily a quote, but definitely a point here. And I didn't really realize it, but I know we talked about it, but in a roundabout way, is that we talked about all the different outfits that she wore.
Oh, amazing!
Like, and I'm not super into fashion. Like, maybe like when I was younger, I was more into like some like designers and stuff, but not as much anymore. But nonetheless, some of the dresses and outfits that she wore were incredible. And what I didn't really realize until I saw some factoid sheet about this the series is that a lot of it was inspired by a chessboard. So they're using like squares or straight lines or diagonals of white and black, and you notice it, but you don't notice it. It's kind of subtle. But then when I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's so obvious. And Jesse and I were talking about this the other day about the outfits that she wore and how she looked really classy and it was very, I'm not even sure what the right word would be, but very...
both elegant, sophisticated.
Yeah, in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing here that I thought, I'll say my quote here. Anger, there's two quotes. This is my second favorite, not my favorite. My second favorite is, anger is a potent spice. A pinch wakes you up and too much dulls your senses. And it's so true. Like, anger is such a great emotion that it can drive you to success, but at the same time, too much of anger can drive you to your own demise. And I think it's very true. And you see it happen to her as well. And I know it happens in my life, and I'm sure some of you listeners, you might have experienced that as well, where someone upsets you, gets you angry. It'll drive you because you got the passion to prove them wrong or whatever. And that can be a great motivator. But at the same time, if you get too pissed off or too angry, you start getting tunnel vision, and then next thing you know, you become self-detrimental. And you end up making you make a bigger mistake than what you started off with and why you got angry. The other one, and I think this one is awesome, and I think it really, when you look at her life being an orphan, look at her mother, and I really find I get it. Your mind is like a program or like software, and the most of the programming gets done by the time you're age 5. Anything after that, it takes a lot of work to rewrite any of that software in your mind. But when you look at her being an orphan, the stuff that her mom said to her, which was very detrimental to her, and affects her throughout most of her young life, and then looking at her life as living in the foster with her foster parents or adoptive parents. This one here is that. She says, when talking about playing chess, it's the entire world of 64 squares. I feel safe. Because you look at before this point right here, her dad didn't want her. Her mom didn't want her. Went and crashed a car, killed herself. Could have killed her too. She becomes an orphan. No one, for 5 to 13 years old, nobody wanted to adopt her. Then she gets adopted. Her adopted dad leaves her. So she probably has that sense of insecurity of not feeling safe and people abandoning, abandonment issues because people would abandon her. And then because of all this stuff too, she has no control over any of that. So in this quote here, it's the entire world of 64 squares. I feel safe. I can control it, I can dominate it, and it's predictable. Unlike life. Yes, you can predict some things in life, but there's an aspect of life which you can't predict. And because of this, she says that, so if I get hurt, I only have myself to blame. And I think that's so important because when you look at her life growing up, she didn't have control. She didn't feel safe. The world was not predictable. But on chess, she could zoom everything down into that. And I think it's phenomenal. And I think it helped her progress in life.
Absolutely. It is a great quote, and it's a reality, not just for her in this movie, but for so many people in general. Really, my favorite quote, and we did also talk about this one, is when, and it's the second to last episode, I believe. It might be the last episode. And Beth Harmon plays Luchenko. Luchenko being someone whose book she read when she was young, when she was, I believe, 5 years old, maybe 6 years old, is learning to play chess, reads this book, The Basics of Chess, a different piece, really, but learning his strategies at a very young age. And she plays Luchenko in Russia, and it's approaching the end of the game after they took a pause into the game because the game was running late. Huge number of contestants, so it's not something where it's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. This goes until it is done. She's playing Luchenko. It's end of night. The night comes to an end. They're all going back to their rooms. Luchenko takes a little break with a couple other Russian masters, and they're all talking. They don't realize at this point, and you brought this up, she had learned to speak Russian, and she had hidden it very well played. A brilliant chess move, if you will, but she hears them talking about how Beth had all but cornered Luchenko, so what were his ways out? And she hears what 3 possible moves were going to be. The next day they adjourn, or they re-begin the game, and she knows most likely what he's going to do, so she plays the game and bests him yet again, to the point where he realizes he is beaten, and he resigns and lets her know, "You're a marvel, my dear. I have just played the best chess player in my life." And why this is so impactful to me and why that quote is so powerful is because this was in many ways one of her idols, her gods, the person who she learned so much from at a young age. And I can only imagine, because I have not experienced that, but I can only imagine how powerful that would be to meet your idol, and best them to the point where you conquered the king.
I would imagine that'd be an impressive feat. Like, to have them tell you that, you like fill you with such pride, but at the same time melt you at the same.
Yes.
Because you just be like, man, my idol, like, said I hit the pinnacle, I beat them, right, and then I'm proud that I did it, but at the same time I'm like, oh, like, I don't know, it'd be so many emotions to feel there.
Yeah. Oh man, the other, and I don't have the whole quote, but the other quote was right around, if you become Grand Master at 16, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And that is an interesting thing to think about, because if you only have one goal, I think is the point for me, as I hear that, if this is your only goal in life, just to become the Grand Master, what are you going to do with the rest of your life once you win? Well, once you're the best, you can stay the best, which is far harder than getting to be the best. Staying the best is far harder, or you can find some other goals, but otherwise you're going to fall.
Yeah, that was a good quote as well. I think some of the things here that you could take away from this series is that you can see how she started to kind of manipulate people using chess to real life, right? She started, like, and this is true with playing chess, and this is why, like, people who are into strategy, like, or in the military and stuff, will play chess, is that you start looking at possible moves. You have to, think so many moves ahead. And you can tell, like, when, like, the end of the first episode, after she starts to first learn how to play chess and starts picking it up, she starts maneuvering how to get into the little storage room to get those
damn pills.
Right? But then later on, like, throughout the whole, like, episode, like the whole series, you can see how she's, like, she maneuvers, and I don't want to say manipulate, because I don't think manipulate's really the best word, but maybe that's the only word that really comes to mind. But I guess moves people, and how she reacts to those moves and stuff like that, and to position herself, in life as well as on the board.
All right, I know we're running a little long here. Any particular scenes that really stand out as some of your favorites or something? What moved you?
Okay, the first one that moved me the most is after I always screw up his name.
I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong too, but Scheibel?
Scheibel. So after the janitor, Scheibel, dies, and she goes back to the school, and she goes down into the basement where they would always play the chess games, and she sees the picture of when the I don't know if it was like the high school chess club guy or maybe it was like a newspaper or whatever, but it took a picture of her and him together, and he still looks like like a grumpy old crankshaft type of guy, and it wasn't like she looked any better. She wasn't smiling either. But I think at that point in time, at that exact moment, because when she went in there, she saw that he had tracked her whole career with paper clippings. Even her adoptive mother didn't do that, and she made a quote on an airplane. She goes, "Maybe I should start scrapbooking all of this." But she didn't scrapbook all of it, or if she did, we don't see it in the series. But he did. He took out all the clippings. He had it all posted up on the wall along with that picture, and she took down the picture. And I think at that very moment, she realized that was her father figure, and it didn't hit her until that moment.
And
that was super emotional.
It is super emotional. It's like dynamically super emotional to realize this person who, when she needed $5 to get into her first tournament, was the person she wrote and who sent her immediately $5. She said if she won, she would refund it and double it to $10. And her friend, when they get back into the car, doesn't understand, but makes another a great saying is, did you bite off more than you can chew going in there? Because she breaks down, and part of the breakdown was she still owed this man $10. But can you imagine seeing this board? To your point, the mother, the stepmother hadn't scrapbooked anything, was really just there for joy in the ride because she had no other source of income, had no skills, no talents, or B, she's much like Mila's coworker where she just didn't want to work. She wasn't working. She was just along for the ride. And all of a sudden you see this board. And it is a board full of this man's, Scheibel's pride. He was so proud of everything Beth Harmon had done in her career. And to see that would be overwhelming. It would break me down too.
Yeah, so I'd say that's probably like one of my favorite scenes. I think another really great scene was at the very, very end when she beats the Grandmaster and he says the game is yours and hands the king over. He doesn't like lay it down and he didn't actually say he resigns. He just says the game is yours and shakes her hand, handing her the king in his from his hand.
Yeah,
and I think that was a great scene there because that just shows her achieving her goal, what she's been obsessing over, and then to finish it off, basically telling the State Department to go fuck itself.
Yes! Yes!
And instead of like going to the airport, he goes and plays some park chess with a bunch of like random like Russians.
Right, and I think that was one of my
it's like that's like a whole long scene.
Yeah, for almost 7 hours of shows, probably like 5 hours, 40 minutes if you round it down because it's about 40 minutes per episode. But for 6 hours of TV, the ending was just as impactful as most of these other scenes. Seeing her play, and she walks into this park in Russia where all these older guys are playing chess, and immediately they show her A, respect, B, they know who she is, C, they're just so happy to see her that she would grace them. And I think that this is a truth. She graced them with her presence. I'll bet no other grandmaster had ever done that.
Probably not.
And she sits down and plays a game. It's a beautiful ending.
It is a beautiful ending. Do you want to end it there?
No, if you want to keep going, I'm game.
I was going to just mention, like, one of these cool factoids here about this show is actually two masters actually like played out all these games and designed it, and then when they were filming the actors playing, they were actually really playing chess. So although you didn't see their actual games on camera when they were really playing it, but their whole reactions about when they were playing were true reactions because they were actually playing chess and they were filming them. So like when she was like down like this, she was actually really like she was playing a game. She was really playing a chess game and stuff like that. And I think another kind of cool fact that they talked about here is that in competition chess and stuff like that, a lot of times they do like look up at the ceiling or other places to play out the different moves in their mind and stuff like that. Even though it showed her doing it, with success or being obsessed with something, there's always a downfall. And I think for her, that might have been her addiction to those tranquilizers to get to that focus point. Like, near the end, she proves that she could do it without it. But I think for the first majority of her life, she had to have that in order to see those figures come to life.
Yeah, it is interesting. Can you imagine the journey of life, what it's like for that kind of trial and tribulation? Great story. And really, one of the fun things it makes me want to do is start playing chess again. I'm one of the 500%.
And there's one last thing here. This also ties into one of our other topics. It ties into the best of Heath Ledger.
Okay, yes. You mentioned this fact.
So Heath Ledger, he was actually obsessed with this book, and he wanted to actually direct the Queen's Gambit and make it into a movie. But that whole thought process of making it into a movie was put on the back burner after he committed suicide. So I think, or
OD'd.
Conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat was killed, died. We'll just say he died. But after he died, that kind of put that project on the back burner, and it didn't get basically brought back up until this Netflix series.
Yeah, and you mentioned it right there. The TV series is based on a book with the same title written in, or novel written in 1983 by Walter Tevis. So might be a good read.
Might be. All right. I guess that's it, right? I'm done unless we got anything else.
I think we're good. Right. I mean, I know we could talk about this for like all night.
We could. So what's our next week's scotch here?
All right, for next week, Noah has selected for us the Glen Scotia Single Malt Scotch Whisky Double Cask. This is their classic Campbellton malt, rich and spicy. Hopefully not.
As spicy as this last one.
I'm telling you, man, I'm digging it. I'm actually enjoying it more now than before. All right, for next week's Smarter Challenge.
All right, I was struggling a little bit about next week's Smarter Challenge. But I think I'm going to go with my original thought. I'll tell you, like, there was going to be one, like, when we were walking into the liquor store, I almost made our Smarter Challenge to watch and do a review of Cobra Kai TV
I still need to watch that. I still want to watch that. I haven't seen one episode, but it sounds cool.
And the 6th season is getting ready to come up here soon. The 6th and final season.
That thing's been around for 6 seasons?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, they're really quick. They're only like 20 minutes long.
Okay, that's not too bad.
It's pretty quick. But so like when we were walking into that liquor store earlier, and I said when I said there's no mercy in this dojo or whatever.
Oh yeah, no mercy in this dojo or. Yeah.
I don't remember what I said. There's something like that. And you started laughing. And you said you thought the same thing. So I'm like, oh, maybe we should talk about Cobra Kai. But I'm going to go with my original one.
All right.
My original one, because I know you kind of like this subject a little bit, having to do a little bit with Hollow Moon Theory.
Ooh.
But it's to watch the movie Moonfall.
Okay, I have not seen it yet.
And so we'll do a review of the movie Moonfall and talk a little bit about megastructures along with the Hollow Moon Theory, because Moonfall has to do with the moon being hollow, but it's not necessarily hollow, it's a megastructure. So I figured that'd be kind of a good topic there. So
I think it's a great topic, and also anyone who thinks that's impossible never saw Star Wars, Death Star. There's 2 of them. All right.
So thank you everyone for watching us on YouTube or Rumble. Please like, share, subscribe for all those who listen to us on our audio, any one of those audio platforms. We thank you for that as well. And pass it on to you.
All right. Remember, drink responsibly. Let us know more feedback. Did you like the point scale? Did you hate the point scale? We don't quite know ourselves where this is going to go, what a good Scotch rating will or will not be, but we'll keep track of these for ourselves and continue to learn and grow, continue to use feedback. So we appreciate all of that. Stay classy, America. All right. Scotchman! Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.